Hey, just want to make a quick video about how to protect your relationship and your family perhaps from the new dark ages of the internet that we're facing currently, where both Australia and the UK have introduced incredibly terrible laws that are literally lying to you, saying that it's for the protection of the children, but are in fact trying to just invade everyone's privacy and prevent peer-to-peer messaging without some type of digital ID, where all that stuff can be yada yada disproportionately used against you. If things weren't already bad enough, I just thought I'd chip in and throw out some type of tips to help you protect your relationship from the downfall. And I was filming for an entire hour and the audio was just shit because my microphone had cut off. So I am just going to throw this out there for the next few minutes. So bear with me. I've got a couple of tips that can help you preserve and perhaps even help your relationship thrive throughout these dark times. So tip number one is don't allow or invite foreign entities in your relationship. Now, we're particularly talking about any government messages and propaganda. But I say this as foreign entities because this can also include in the form of relatives and other family members who may be politically leaning to one side or another. Now, because family members, relatives, they can actually have tremendous say in your relationship. Whether you're starting out or you've already been in the relationship, when people say nasty shit, it can get under your skin. And this stuff that gets under your skin can eventually spawn from and harm your relationship. You might even break up because of what other people did. They intervened, they kept on commenting, and you kept on doubting, and you kept on feeling a lot more miserable. So take that with any situation. Now, if you're more pro-government, right, you do want to not impose your will upon the other party for sure, because this will obviously make your partner feel a lot less safe and comfortable. And if you are the person who is perhaps more anti-government, you don't want to be the one complaining and becoming hostile yourself. You don't want to be bitter. You do want to be as calm as possible. You don't want to go attacking your partner for choosing the dark side, things like that. Tip number two, which leans into this a little bit more, be as neutral as possible in your relationship. And being as neutral as possible it's definitely a much easier way to go about living life. And it's more strategically advantaged too. It's more strategically advantageous. Even as a Jehovah's Witness growing up myself, it's politically advantageous to be neutral because people are less likely to be hostile towards you just because you are more neutral. They are less likely to see you as an instant threat and may see you as someone who has potential to be in line with them, their way of thinking. But that's not what we're going to be doing. We do want to understand perspectives from both sides or any side as much as possible, but we're just going to remain as neutral as possible. We would prefer not to take sides as much as possible. And tip number three is don't go changing your partner's mind unless your partner wants that. So a person can't really change unless they want to. So if your partner's in agreement with this whole censorship thing, or if they're against it, whatever you do, you can't change your partner's mind by force. The only way to do that is you actually have to change your mind. And if you can change your mind, they might be more open to changing theirs. And yeah, so that's how you do that. Tip number four, I think I've already mentioned this, but don't impose your will or trespass against the agency of your partner. So this can go either direction, but it can look like, if you've got children, you don't want to be taking them out away from your partner and doing things without their knowledge or consent. If you are seeing someone else behind the back, sure, you might have your reasonings, you might have your justifications, it might feel so right. But if you're going to force your way on your partner, it's not going to make them feel good. So don't trespass against their agency. This might be like declaring things. This is the way. This might be like putting your foot down. Putting your foot down can be deemed as trespass against agency. So don't do that. Don't declare things to be a certain way when your partner has not agreed to that. Tip number 5: do not dob on your neighbor if they rub off under your skin. Don't return fire with fire. And you see this a lot, perhaps, back in the day with Nazi Germany, people were dobbing on the neighbors, and people still do this to this day, especially in places like Australia back in the scamdemic days, where people were dobbing on the neighbors for not taking the coof jab or not wearing the muzzle. And so you want to not dob on your neighbor, and your neighbor is also your partner. Your partner may or may not be in agreement. Now, this is probably more likely if you're someone who is more anti-government. You'd be more afraid that your partner would dob on you, etc. But yeah, just don't do that. And if there's like escalation, you don't want to go punishing your partner, because when you punish your partner, you actually inflict more pain in the relationship. You're not resolving anything by punishing them. Whatever happens, whether you're reporting on them because you feel bad and you want to have your say, you want to prove that you are right and they are wrong, you're throwing nukes out there for people who throw stones at you. You stoop yourself below that person's level if they really did something to you, even if it is a physical confrontation. Tip number 6: forgive your partner. Literally, I can't emphasize this one enough, because if you do not forgive your partner, this enables the breeding ground for the harboring of resentment, for woe is me, for beating yourself up, for pointing the fingers and blaming. You have to forgive your partner as much as possible, even if they are in the wrong, even if they did something wrong, even if what they did was disproportionate. Seek out ways to forgive your partner, because this is one of the highest levels of godliness and maturity that you can embody. Tip number 7, you'll find this much more useful if you are already Christian, but if you are not Christian, you might still find this useful. Read the Bible together. Spend an hour at least once a week just sitting down on the couch together, going through a study. You can get material out there. I know in my own JW organization when I was growing up, we would sit around the couch sometimes and just read the Awake magazine or the Watchtower or whatever. And when you're doing this with your grandparents or your family members and things like this, it's actually kind of fun, because you get to take turns reading, you get to understand certain subjects, you get to ask questions about things to each other, and that environment is really nice to have that spiritual growth, because during the Dark Ages, especially right now with the government overreach and censorship, you're going to need that more and more and more. You're going to want that closeness, that bond, and that's something the government, they have tried to take away from people in the past, like during the Soviet Union when Stalin was around, Mao Zedong, people like that. Back in the day, they were literally trying to rip people apart by taking the religion away. So we do want to actually increase our spiritual health together. And again, if you have kids, don't do anything behind your partner's back, even if it does seem like it's in the best interest of the child, because you're just trespassing against their agency, and you're going to be breaking their trust. So you always want to be seeking out your partner's opinion, the consent preferably. So final tip: aim to build trust and perhaps even safety as much as possible. This is your number one goal throughout these Dark Ages, because if you can focus on how do I build more trust here, how do I make my partner feel a lot more comfortable with me during this difficult time, if you're prioritizing that, you're more likely to find cracks that allow you to seep through and find that, rather than constantly saying, I can't believe my partner did that, etc. If you'd like to get in touch with me one-on-one, you can DM me here on TikTok or Instagram.